glad to see that you are still in one piece. It's been a while since I've been able to come back to Fontaine. Tell me, my dear, how have the children been in my absence? Hopefully, Lenny, Lynette, and Fremine have been able to keep the rest of the children in check. Even if you were there to make sure they didn't get into too much trouble, I still can't help but worry that the children will inevitably turn on their father. You say things have been awfully quiet within the House of the Hearth. I guess that's good. I wish I could actually go there and check on the children myself, but unfortunately, I am here on diplomatic business. I am not sure if you are aware of the Fatui's dealings within Fontaine, but some of the recent events that unfolded recently have put the peace between Fontaine and Snezhnaya in jeopardy. I have a meeting later with Lady Farina and Monsieur Neuvillette for this matter, but I have a few hours still before going to meet the both of them. I am glad you were able to come and meet me. There have been a few things I have been meaning to discuss with you since our last chat. Since you work within the walls of the House of the Hearth, any sort of urgent word gets put through you before reaching me. Has there been anything serious to report within the recent months, or have things been quiet? Quiet? That's good. It means less work for me to deal with while doing work for the Tsaritsa. Hopefully, the meeting with Farina and Neuvillette will go smoothly, and they will be able to do as I and the Tsaritsa requested. If things, however, don't go smoothly, I fear that the peace between the nations will dissolve into the waters, just like the rest of Fontaine's people if the prophecy be fulfilled. Oh, apologies for that. I did not mean to cause you any sort of emotional distress. I know that the prophecy is something you do not take lightly. As Fontainians, it is only natural we worry over this impending doom that looms over our heads. My dear, I understand that you are worried for the safety of everyone within the house, and also within Fontaine, but let me assure you that I and the Tsaritsa will not let the prophecy come to fruition. The people of Fontaine will be saved. I promise. Is that not what you are worried about? Then tell me, what has got you so worked up all of a sudden? Oh, I see. Do you miss me when I am not here in Fontaine? I understand. Most of the time I am not within the borders of Fontaine at all, and rather out in the other nations doing work for the Tsaritsa. I do not see how it would get lonely for you, though, since you have the rest of the children within the House of the Hearth to spend your time with. Unless... Do you not feel inclined to be with the rest of the children? Well, why is that, my dear? You feel isolated from the rest of them? Do you feel they are isolating you, or are you isolating yourself from them? Isolating from them. I see. Then why are you isolating yourself? You're feeling insecure? How come? Because you weren't an orphan like the rest of them. Let me get this straight. You don't want to be around them, just because you aren't an orphan like the rest? My dear, just because you aren't an orphan, it doesn't mean the rest of the children will think differently of you. I know, hearing those words come from me might be a bit strange, but I assure you that I am genuine in what I am saying. Let me tell you this. Back before I became the father of the House of the Hearth, and when I was a child there, there was a young child named Clairy who lived within the orphanage. Clairy wasn't an orphan herself. In fact, her mother was the previous knave and mother of the house before I took over. What does that have to do with your situation? Did you not just hear what I said? She wasn't an orphan inside of the house, but all of the rest of the children treated her as an equal. If those children treated Clairy like an equal, my children will treat you as an equal. Does that make sense, dear? Good. I'm glad you could come to this conclusion. I'll admit, Clairy was the only person who understood me in my youth. The only person who didn't treat me like an outcast. And the only person who knew about the truth of Crucibina. It makes me wish she were still here today. What happened to Clairy? That's a long story. I guess, to try and keep it brief, Clairy was the biological daughter of the previous knave, that being Crucibina. Crucibina treated her daughter like the rest of the children in the House of the Hearth at the time, to try and show her indifference to all of the children. Clairy thought that living within the house would have been a fairy tale, but she instead found it to be a purgatory for herself. However, there was also one other person who saw through the facade. A young girl named Perware. Perware was a cold individual, keeping to herself most of the time, but Clairy had become friends with the young girl, and they confided with each other about Crucibina's facade. They tried to think of countless plans to overthrow their mother, but their plans would always fall through. Eventually, Clairy decided that the only way out of her purgatory was death. Clairy decided to duel against one of the other children, but the child she faced ended up being her best friend, Perware. It was in that duel that Clairy allowed Perware to take her life. A year after Clairy's death, Perware fought against Crucibina, killing her as well. Perware ended up getting brought to Snezhnaya, where her crimes of killing the knave were pardoned by the Tsaritsa. With the pardoning of her crimes, Perware was given the title as Father of the House of the Hearth, Crucibina's position as a harbinger, as well as a new name. That name being Arlecchino. Yes, I killed Clairy. I'll admit, even if I miss her slightly, I do not regret what I did. I wouldn't have been able to kill Crucibina if I hadn't killed Clairy first. And in turn with killing her, I saved the next generation of children within the house. I couldn't let Crucibina keep doing the things she did. Sending the rejects, the heavily injured. I couldn't let her send them either to the doctor to be experimented on, or on extremely dangerous yet pointless missions just to kill them off. Unlike her, I care for the children who live within the walls of the house. I refused to subject my children to what she did, and vowed to protect them instead. The doctor? Absolutely not. That man is nothing more than insane, merciless, and cruel. You think I'm cruel? That man wouldn't even hesitate to end your life over a simple mistake, or teach you a lesson by experimenting on you either until you die, or your body is mangled too far beyond recognition. If you value your life, you would stay far away from that man. Am I clear? Good. I care for you like I do the rest of the children, and don't want to see you hurt. especially by the hands of a fellow harbinger. Apologies. I am not trying to scold you. You were only asking a question about what he does. But I'd still prefer to spare you the details. Now, I have delayed for long enough. It is time for me to take my leave. I apologize to leave on such a sour note, but I do not have more time to speak, or I risk being late for this diplomatic meeting. I will come by the House of the Hearth once more before I head back to Snezhnaya. Thank you again for meeting me today. And, my dear, please, keep yourself and the others safe.